Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. This is a quick demo video on ZPA disaster recovery. So this is if the Zscaler cloud goes down, we will still have access to our critical applications. Now, let's take a step back on we recall what a normal operation looks like in a high-level packet flow. So on a normal operation, we have a remote users right here, and they'd like to get access to our servers in the public cloud. So what happens is they talk to the Zero Trust Exchange, and then from here it talks to the app connectors, and then the app connectors talk to the actual servers. Same thing with the on-prem, but a slight difference here. Uh, we have users from marketing. They will talk to the private service edge, and then this private service edge talks to the app connectors, and then the app connectors talk to the actual servers. Now, that's the high-level view for a normal operation. Now, during a disaster recovery, the Zero Trust Exchange is down. So when this, basically what the admin will log into the DNS server provider and update the DNS text record to trigger the DR. Once this happens, the Zscaler client connectors will talk to the private service edge in the data center. The users from marketing, IT will also talk to the private service edge, and the app connector as well will talk to the private service edge. So the private service edge is our bridge for this disaster recovery. Now, here are the configuration steps. We will cover step by step all these steps in the demo shortly, but first, number one is we prepare a DNS provider. So our DNS provider for this demo is GoDaddy. We will need to create two records, an A record for the public IP of our private service edge, and a DNS text record to trigger the DR. The next is we enable disaster recovery in application segments, app connector groups, and private service edge group that we selected. Next is we configure ZPA DR in the app profiles. Next is we configure DR in the ZPA admin portal. And then step 7 is situational. So if our PSE is behind a firewall or an external IP like AWS, for this example, we will need to configure the publish IPs or domains. This configuration is on the private service edge page in the ZPA portal. And then the last step is to trigger the DR. So we will need to update the DNS text record. So here's our lab setup. Now this is the laptop machine that we're on. We're gonna use it as a test user. Our private service edge is in AWS, and it has this external IP. And on our data center, we have an app connector, and we have two servers. First server is an Ubuntu web server. We will not enable DR here. And the second server is a Windows server, certificate authority services page, and we will enable this for DR. So the expectation is when the DR is triggered, we will have access to this Windows server, but we will not have access to this Ubuntu web server page. All right, so let's get into it. And here is our Ubuntu server, which is accessible. And this is our Windows server, cert SRV page. And when the trigger gets triggered, we will have access to this page, and we will not have access to this Ubuntu server. So first step is to prepare the DNS server service. So we'll need to create two DNS records. So first, we will need to create an A record. Our subdomain is dr.zpa here. So dr.zpa.this domain. And this will be the public IP of the private service edge, which is in AWS. So we get the value here, private IP. And then add more record, text record this time, still the same. And then this will be our values. So V is version 1, and B is the actual trigger. So when we set it to off, DR is off. When we set it to on, DR is on. And we also have a third variable, which is test. When we set it to test, then only the test users in the app profile will trigger the DR. We will use this test trigger in the demo shortly. So for now, we will set it to off. Then And it's important that the TTL here is the lowest. So for the GoDaddy, our custom TTL is 600 seconds. Save all records. And then next is we enable disaster recovery and application segment. So we go to our ZPA portal and then application segments page. So this Ubuntu server, we do not want disaster recovery enabled here, which is disabled. And then for a Windows server, cert SRV, we will enable disaster recovery right here, enabled, save. All right, next is we enable disaster recovery in our app connector groups. So go to the app connector page, app connector groups, and this is our app connector group for this test. Edit, and disaster recovery, it's already enabled. We're gonna save it anyway. Next is we enable disaster recovery in our selected private service edge group. So let's go to the private service edge group page right here. And this is our group. And we enable disaster recovery. It's already enabled. Okay, save it anyways. And the next is we configure ZPA DR in app profiles. So app profile, we want to go to the mobile admin page. And our app profile is, what is our app profile? So we are pilot users app profile. Okay, pilot users. Let's look for the ZPA DR. All right, so we have configured ZPA DR here. We have it enabled. And the activation domain is zdr.zpa and then the domain. And the notice here is we have this knob. So this means that this app profile is a test group. So if we set the B to test, only users with this app profile will trigger the DR. So if we set it to on, it will trigger the DR for everyone else. And this one is for is optional if you want to use the signing public key. We're not gonna. This is not covered in this demo. Okay, so this one is all set. So no need to do some changes here. And then the next is we configure disaster recovery in the ZPA admin portal. So we want to go back to the ZPA admin portal, and where is the disaster recovery page? Okay, so here administration control and disaster recovery. So this is already automatically filled out for us. So application segments. So this shows us that we have the Windows server, shows us which private service edge groups are configured, as well as app connectors, and we configure the settings right here. So for max age authentication, we're gonna put 14 days, and we will need to configure tell the ZPA what the FQDN is for our disaster recovery domain name. So put this here once again. And then next step is the private service edge. Because we're using an AWS behind an external IP, we need to tell the ZPA portal that it's behind an external IP. So we want to go to the private service edge and then edit this private service edge and the publish IP right here. So we copy this once again and paste it here. All right, save. It says restart the private service edge using. Okay, so we'll need to restart. Let's copy that and continue restart using for change to tech. Okay. And we putty into our app connector, our private service edge. Authentication. Oops, not that. Credentials. And the address is 34. All right, let's log in. And let's restart the ZPA service. Let's do sudo. All right, and let's take a look at the status. Okay, it's running. All right, now next is we go ahead and trigger the DR. So let's go back to our DNS service page, and we edit this. So we trigger this. So we're gonna do this at test. So we want to do this as test user if we're testing, but for in real DR scenario, we want to set it to on and save. All right, it's gonna take some time for the DNS changes to propagate. We will go ahead and pause this page or pause this video. All right, and we're back. Now, after a few minutes, the DR got triggered. So we could see it here on the Zscaler client connector page, the ZPA access. It's gonna mark it as safe mode. So in this scenario, we should not have access to this Ubuntu web page. So let's pull up an incognito window. No access right there. And if we access this Windows cert SRV page, we should have access to this. All right, there we go. Let's log in real quick. All right, there we go. That's the demo for ZPA DR. Thank you everyone for joining.